Hello, Colorado Housing Coalition. We wanted to pop on, give you a quick video. We're with Samantha Santi here, Lobbyist Liaison Committee Chair. She's going to give us a brief update on HB25 1249. That's the tenant security deposit protections that we are going to be hearing in the House Committee tomorrow. Sam, you want to give us a little recap on the bill?
Yes, absolutely. So this one is definitely one of our major bills this year. It does a lot of things, so we'll just hit the high points. It does things like limit your security deposit to 1 times the monthly rent. If you have a security deposit that you had previously collected over that level, you will be required to refund it back to the resident. If your resident is subsidized, then you can only take a security deposit of 1 times their portion of the rent. If they do not pay for their own rent, if housing pays 100% of their rent, then theoretically you cannot require any security deposit for this resident moving forward. It also requires that you accept payment plans on security deposits. The payment plan must be at least 6 months. So no 2 times, no 3 times, at least 6 months. And there is no avenue for eviction if your resident fails to make a payment on that plan or on the security deposit. You only have civil actions to try and get that deposit paid in full. It narrows, we'll say, the definition of normal wear and tear on a property, including mandating 5-year lifespan of carpet, which cuts that in half from what was previously kind of accepted as the norm in the industry. It also, the other really big one, it requires that if your resident requests a guide, or if they request to be present during your move out inspection, they can request that at any time up to 10 business days after they vacate the property. You must do a guided walkthrough with them, and you would be limited to any damage that you document in writing during that inspection. And you would also be required to send them a copy of your inspection report as is. The main thing here is, well, a couple main things. Number one, if the tenant requests, you have to do this walkthrough before they completely vacate. So there's theoretically still tenant belongings at the property. What do you do if they're covering a giant hole in the wall with a poster or moving boxes? Nobody wants, their property manager to rummage through their stuff to see the walls. So that's already an awkward spot for us. If there's snow on the ground and they've got pets, or they haven't been taking care of the yard, you can't fully document the condition of the property. And so if it doesn't melt until 2 weeks after, you're kind of stuck. The property owner is stuck just eating all of those costs. But then 10 days after, that's 10 business days after the resident vacates. So that's
Wow.
somewhere between a third of a month and half of a month that you can't even touch the property. You can't put your vendors in there. You can't you can do a pre-inspection walkthrough, sure, no problem. You can document the condition, but if the tenant requests it, if the resident requests that walkthrough on day 8, you can't have your vendors in there because that jeopardizes everything in the same way that it does now if your vendor goes before you do that move out inspection yourself to document that condition. So theoretically, your owner is immediately out half a month's revenue just right off the top, where they can't even begin to put a new resident in until after your vendors get in there to do any cleaning and repairs. So this one's real rough. We're really hoping to show up in force tomorrow, just make sure that we are a presence there in the House. Just make sure that these legislators understand how important it is for us to kill this bill.
So Sam, we talked a little bit earlier. You are not super hopeful that it's going to get killed in committee tomorrow. What would be the CHC's plan moving forward then as this bill progresses?
So, okay, so 2 things. Number one, even if we don't feel that there's a really good chance, we want to make it painful for these legislators, all right? So we want to show up in force. We want to be allotted every single one of us, our 2 minutes in testimony, either in person or remote. We want to make it very clear that we are willing to fight on this bill. We will have an easier chance of getting it killed in the Senate. This isn't a guarantee, right? So we successfully get it killed tomorrow. There's maybe a small chance, but we still want to try. We have to try. Otherwise,
Absolutely.
nobody's going to listen to us. Nobody's going to take us seriously. But then if it does pass the committee tomorrow, then we are going to start a couple different campaigns. We have some allies in the House floor, so it has to pass a full House vote twice before it can advance into the Senate. So if you guys have any, stories of either residents that you were able to place because you took an extra deposit, deposit and a half, double deposit, and they turned out to be wonderful residents that you loved, but you never would have placed them if you couldn't take that extra deposit. Send us all of those stories. Send us the stories of, the really bad move outs or the hidden damage that you didn't even notice until 2 weeks, after your vendors got in there and realized that all of your copper piping was gone, things like that. Like send us all of those stories because we will be able to pass them on to our allies in the House. I don't believe that there's a way to submit that evidence, we'll call it, those the evidence to the committee tomorrow, but we can definitely do it in advance of any hearing on the floor. So Lindsay, I think you'll be sending out a couple of those campaigns, and then we'll really hit it strong in the Senate. We're expecting this to go to the Senate. That doesn't mean please don't show up tomorrow. That means please show up tomorrow. Let's show up in force. That way people will have to listen to us when we say that this is a concern. But that way also our senators are put on blast that, hey, they, made a big old stink about it in the House. So they're really going to come after us in the Senate too. So we want to show up in force tomorrow. And then, yeah, any future calls to action you get specifically about this one, although we have a couple other really important ones as well. But anything you guys can do to help us out on this, it really will make a difference.
Okay, great, Sam. Well, thank you so much. We're going to get an email out to all of our members today with more information. As always, feel free to forward this information to your landlords and your clients. Ask them to join the CHC as individuals. The more that we can disseminate this information, the better. I think part of our biggest hurdle is people being aware of what's actually going on. Samantha's got a rare insight that she's with our lobbyist almost every day, I'm sure, at this point, and talking to him about the bills. So as much as we can get this information shared out with Colorado homeowners and housing providers, the better, because we really need to be paying attention to this bill. So thank you, Sam, for all of your hard work on this. And as a member, stay tuned. We're going to keep fighting this bill, and we're going to, we'll revamp our campaign as we move through the process.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.